At notebook page 252, the top half, and we're going to practice writing our values, our calculated answers supplied to us, to get them into proper scientific notation. So the first thing that I want to point out, and in each of our calculated answers, our coefficients do not follow the proper scientific range. So the coefficient, when we write it, it needs to be a value of at least 1, and it has to be less than 10. So that would be the first thing. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the coefficient contains our sig figs. So when I look at this coefficient 345, all those digits are significant, so all of them need to show up in the coefficient. So my coefficient would be 3.45. So 3.45 fits within the desired range, and it still has the same sig figs. And then I'm going to put times 10, and I'm going to worry about the new exponent in a little bit, and it's still in a unit of grams. When I take a look at the next example, the coefficient is 3,215. The coefficient contains only non-zero digits, so all of them are significant. So when I rewrite it in the proper range, each one still needs to show up in the coefficient. So my new coefficient would be 3.215, and then a base of times 10, and it's still in grams. Looking at the next coefficient, its value shows that it is less than 1, so 0.0065. Those zeros that come before the 65, those are leading zeros. Leading zeros are never significant, so only the 6 and the 5 are considered significant. So those would be the only digits showing up in the coefficient, and writing them as 6.5 will fit within the range of a value of at least 1 but less than 10. So times our base of times 10, and we have our unit of grams still. And then our last example here, we have a number that's really less than 1. And so when we look at it left to right, there's a bunch of zeros. So those are leading zeros. They are not significant. So our first significant digit is the 4, and anything else written to the right of it. So the 4 and the 6 need to show up in the coefficient. And to fit within the desired range, we would write it as 4.6 times 10, and we still have grams. Okay, so now if we move the decimal point, then we have to adjust the exponent value. So here's a little technique that I use. So I first take a look at the exponent, and this exponent is a value of 23, and it's positive. So if I was to take this out of sign notation, this exponent would tell me move that decimal 23 places to the right. But when I take a look, I had a coefficient of 345, and to make it 3.45 in the coefficient, I move the decimal to the left. So I moved it to the left of the 5 and the 4. So it's sandwiched between the 3 and the 4. So one arrow points to the right, the other arrow points to the left. So they are moving in opposite directions. So moving to the right, it wants me to move 23, but I've gone even farther away. So when your arrows move opposite, then the exponent value, so I'm going to put EXP for exponent value, it will increase in magnitude or move farther from 0. So if it's opposite, then the exponent value moves away from 0. So I start off 23 moves away from 0, but I moved it 2 more in the opposite direction. So I was already 23 plus 2 more moves. My new exponent here is 25. Okay, taking a look at the next example. Okay, this exponent is negative. So you see that little negative sign? So that tells me it wants me to move the decimal 10 positions to the left. And when I look at where I had to move my decimal to get the coefficient in the proper range, I moved it to the left of the 5, to the left of the 1, to the left of the 2. So I moved this decimal within the coefficient also to the left. So in this case, exponent wants to move left and my correction moved left. So the arrows, they move together. They're heading in the same direction. So the exponent says, hey, make 10 moves to the left, but my correction only required 3. So I have to figure out, okay, I had 10 moves to the left. I used 3 of the moves to the left. So now, how many are left over? So I had 10, used 3, so I have 7 moves left. So that's supposed to be a little 7. And I want those 7 moves to continue to the left, so I have to make my exponent negative. So when your arrows move in the same direction, they move together, then the exponent value, it moves towards 0. So 7 is closer to 0 than 10 is. Take a look at the next example. Okay, my exponent is 18, so I have to move the decimal 18 places, but because it's positive, it wants to move to the right. And when I take a look at my correction to go from 0.0065 coefficient to 6.5, I moved my decimal position to the right. So I moved it around this first 0, this second 0, and moved it again so it's sandwiched between the 6 and the 5. So my 2 arrows, they are moving together. So that means my exponent value, it moves towards 0. So I have to make 18 moves according to the exponent, but when I move the decimal, I only use 3 of the 18 moves. So now I have 15 moves remaining. And I keep the exponent positive because I want to keep it moving to the right. 15 more moves to the right. Last example here. Okay, so last example, I have an exponent value of 20. So that means I have to move the decimal 20 times. That negative sign tells me the direction. So it wants to move to the left. In my correction though, to get the decimal from where it's shown, to get it sandwiched between the 4 and the 6, I had to move the decimal to the right. So that means one arrow's moving to the left, the other one's moving to the right. They are moving opposite. So that means that my exponent value moves farther away from 0. So the number of moves it took to get it sandwiched between the 4 and the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it costs 7 moves. And if it's going to move farther from 0, here's your choice. Is the new exponent going to be 13 or is it going to be 27? Well, which one is farther from 0? 27 moves is much farther from 0 than 20. So our new exponent value is 27. But we want the 27 moves to be to the left, so we need to make sure that the exponent is negative. This just takes time. It will take practice, and you need to talk yourself through it just like I did, and then you will be able to master it.